Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Cam and Joe Show. My name is Joe Steele with my good friend, Cameron Elkins.
Morning, buddy. How are you, bro?
I'm so, better I get to hang out with you. This week was kind of garbage.
This week was kind of wild for me as well. And I literally found myself on Wednesday morning. I'm like, I want to fast forward to Friday a little bit and get to the podcast studio. The second I walk into this space, it's something about the presence, whether it's it being on the GT campus or just the amount of worship that you play back here. But walking into this room, this space just feels
happy.
Yeah. Feels happy. Well, it also feels light, feels free.
It's also good relationship and good conversation, man. I look forward to it because I don't know, there's no walls. Yeah. We've been friends for so long. I go, oh, hey, bud. Hey, sweet, let's just talk. It's going to be good.
Let's just talk.
It's going to be awesome.
Let's just free flow. And today, I'm super excited about the topic.
It's going to be amazing.
I've been thinking about this topic for a while. We knew that in the month of June, with June being the Father's Day in June, we talked a lot about mothers in May, with Mother's Day being in May. And I knew from the start that obviously I can only speak so much on motherhood, right?
You did a good job.
We tried. It was I love that episode.
Well, you don't.
If you're watching this and you haven't watched that episode yet, go back and watch that one. But today it's going to be all about fathers, dad life,
absolutely,
our own fathers, our own experiences as fathers.
Yeah.
And God, when the best characteristic, my experiences, and my just kind of prayerful reflection.
Sure.
The best version of God in my eyes. Is God the Father. But
Abba
even
Father.
Without even just saying God the Father, because that just sounds so big and so unattainable and so grandiose and hard to connect with.
Yeah.
I think of the Father heart of God, 100%. Which is it's Beckham or Madeline or Bodie getting hurt and wanting to cuddle them and love them. When you begin to see God like that,
absolutely,
instead of some big fiery celestial being sitting on a throne, that's like, oh, and there is that. But there's also the Cameron, it's okay, just come to me part of God. And that's the part of God that does it for me.
Well, but it changes though too, and I agree with you. But it does change because I remember when my dad had left. He left my mom for a period of time, but it was right, like he left and was gone for 6 months, and then my wife gave birth to our firstborn. Yeah, and my dad was gone. Yeah, and the amount of love, I remember calling him up and being like, "How could you have left?" Yeah. I literally wept because I was like, how could you have left? I said, the amount of love I have for my one child right now, I've never experienced being a father. This is the first time. And I would just wept like, wow. Like you think you get it. You think you know. You don't know. You just don't know. And when you finally get it, it's an entirely different experience. It's like, I want to make a whole new world for you. I'm willing to build anything. I'm willing to go as far. I'm willing to do whatever I can to provide for you because I just love you that much. And you have done nothing for it. Yeah. Like, that is just the father's heart right there.
100%.
And so when I remember struggling
not
with
deserving that.
No.
But still receiving it.
Yeah. And so I remember being mad because I was like, gosh, Dad, why, and being like, how could you have done that? And I called my brothers and like, bro, we're figuring it out too. Like, it's not easy. It sucks. Yeah.
Bro, the second Beckham was born, I didn't think I was gonna cry, which is weird because I cried.
Oh, bro, about everything.
I'm a cry, which is weird because I'm a crier. Like, I cry at a good
Kleenex commercial, and you're like, "Can I get a Kleenex?"
Man, it's almost annoying now because when we're watching a pause for some lack of sincerity, when we're watching the freaking Super Bowl, man, if there's a Clydesdale and like a Dalmatian puppy,
so those are for
and
you.
They're in a sunset. Those are made Budweiser. This episode brought by Budweiser. They know me, and literally I'll watch it and I'll start to get misty eyes. Then I'm like, oh, it's a good commercial. Look at my family, and everybody's staring at me. I'm like, what's up? I'm like, I'm going to watch these commercials in the garage so I can have a good little moment.
So what you're saying is you have Hallmark playing at home all the time. You don't want to tell anybody?
Guaranteed.
You're like, it's NBA Live. And Hallmark, so that's my life?
That's it. No, but I remember when Beckham was born, and I remember as soon as Dr. Madalena lifted him up,
Yeah.
he allowed me to cut the cord. They cleaned him off.
Yeah.
As soon as they set Beck on Hannah's chest, I lost it. It was beyond euphoric.
Yeah.
How that felt.
Sure.
Because that was the culmination and final chapter of Hannah being pregnant in that season. So it was the closing of a chapter and the
opening,
the slamming open of a brand new one.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like I remember then you stay the night.
Yeah.
And then I remember putting that kid into the car seat for the first time, like, oh, and then like you like lift up his arm, you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. And now, oh, God, now you see me throwing like,
oh yeah, I know.
Bodie, and I'm like, bop, 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 slap, slap, slap. And it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, what just happened? You're like,
yeah.
You're welcome.
I can like change a diaper without looking. Just,
yeah, 3.2 seconds.
Yeah, bro. Going from your first to your second,
yeah,
is wild. And then second to third, you're just like, oh, psh. We have this, like, I saw this meme. It was so good. It was like, if you're a parent to 3, you only want to hang out with other parents of 3 or beyond.
Sure.
Because there's just nothing that can fade. Like, the whole house can be on fire.
Like, oh, yeah, that's really great.
That's great.
Yeah.
You hear just, like, screaming, running right by, and you just don't even blink.
And then you're like, hey, keep it down. Some of us are trying to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Right back into the conversation.
Or there's, like, wrestling going on. You hear a, and you're just like, wait.
Yeah.
We're good.
So here's...
And, like, people that don't have kids, they're, like, at our house just like... And we're like, are you okay? They're like, are you okay? Are they okay? We're like, oh, they're fine.
That chainsaw always turns
Exactly.
He's really good.
Yeah, the matches. Yeah, fun.
Well, so here's an interesting thing when it comes to kids and playing. When a kid feels safe enough to be chaotic, you've done something right.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're in an environment and they don't feel safe to do anything,
express themselves,
right? But if they're in a place where they're like, and they feel trusted, they feel safe, and they're able to do that, that's how a lot of really good memories, a lot of really good stuff done, and that is props to parenting.
Yeah.
If you were, I mean, it's like the movie that did it really well was actually Cheaper by the Dozen.
Yeah.
Like, all this crazy stuff's happening. He's like, it'll be fine. Like, they're just totally whatever.
Yeah.
Because they know in the end, the important things are the important things, and the things that aren't. Aren't. Yeah. But allowing that environment for these kids to operate. I do believe, hey, make a mess. My rule I have with my kids is make as big of a mess as you want, but then you're going to clean it up. So I don't care how big the mess is. Yeah. As long as you're not, like, staining anything and ruining anything, I don't care. Yeah. So all of a sudden, I'm like, when did you guys remember these toys when we were like 4? And I'm all... That's cool. Yeah, well, we just built a fortress with that, and then over here, the Lego people are invading, and then the book people, and I'm like...
The imaginative side, when you start to tap into it, it's... When I get home, I usually have to become Captain Hook for, like, at least...
You have to.
5 minutes. And, like, I'll walk in, I'm like, hey, guys, and then Hannah does this incredible, windy, darling voice.
Nice.
And she's instantly like, oh, Peter, who is that? And I'm just like... And I instantly know. I set my keys down. I'm like, blast you, Peter Pan. And I like run in there with like a hook. And they're like, ah. And at that time, Maddie's usually in her Tinkerbell outfit. Beckham's in his Peter Pan outfit.
That's
and they're
so good.
Running around. And Bodie's just like, what's happening?
No, that's incredible.
Yeah. Imaginative play is where it's at.
Well, it needs to be there. Well, everything's so serious all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially as adults, it's like we need kids. You know the movie Finding Neverland? Because you're talking about
one of my top 10, potentially top like 3 or 5.
It's amazing, man. So in the movie, for those of you, it's not really a spoiler alert. It's about the guy who creates this the play of Peter Pan, and it's about his journey. And he writes this story, and this is serious theater, and he writes this kid's play. And he has a man pretending to be a dog, and these adults pretending to be children, and it's fantastical realm when he was doing stuff like A Lot to Do About Nothing, right? He was doing Shakespeare plays and went, let's do this. And everyone was like, what? What? And he's sitting there with his producer, and the producer's like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you want. There's a lot of fairies and music and magic and sword fights and pirates and Indians, and I don't understand this. He goes, but you used to. Then all of a sudden, you see the play start, and he's nervous, and then you see an orphanage.
Yeah, that scene.
All of those little feet coming to it, and then all of a sudden he sets them up around the theater,
and all these older esteemed people are like, well, all these children, and they're just like They glow at the stage.
And they're all kind of got the serious look of like, what is this play going to be?
Yeah.
Kind of being very critical. And then the kid starts to laugh. And then the adults start to laugh.
Yeah. They're freed. The adults are freed by the joy of the children.
I think that's why kids' movies, like when it's a bad kids' movie, I take way more offense than if it's in a bad grown-up movie.
Sure.
Because if it's a bad kids' movie, I'm like, look, okay, you had one job.
Yeah.
Okay, and it is to make everybody laugh.
Yeah.
You can throw in fart joke. There is nothing off the table.
Yeah.
Okay, you can be as weird as
Pure
you want
entertainment.
to. Go for it.
Yep.
How did you ruin that?
Yeah, you had literally one job. Didn't even have to loosely hang to a plot. Just make it hilarious.
Just make it entertaining.
Yeah.
And then you watch an adult one, and you're like, oh, that was thought-provoking. Thought-provoking is one of my favorite words for not good.
Not great.
Or I will never watch it again.
Yeah.
It's like, what'd you think about? Oh, it was very thought-provoking.
Yeah. I doubt I'll ever watch it again. And I'm not getting those 2 hours back. But
And then you go home, and you're like, let's watch Megamind. You're like, done.
Done. Let's go. From a peeling it back a little bit more.
Sure.
We're talking about our experiences at home and as fathers.
Yeah.
What are some of your oldest, David, is how old now?
10.
10.
Bro. Wow. Double digits, bro.
Okay, so if you were to
He's going to be my tax attorney.
if you were to place nice. If you were to place one of your, and every day and every week and every month and year, there's incredible memories and moments. But if you were to peel back, let's just say we go 60 years into the future.
Yeah.
50 years in the future. We're
Sure.
closer to the ends of our lives.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have an opportunity to go back to one moment with you and David.
Ooh.
What is that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or I mean, it doesn't have to be the one, but let us in.
Okay, so something that we really like to do. So when I'm talking with my kids, the rules are there are no bad questions.
Yeah.
And if the question becomes inappropriate, which,
Yeah.
I mean, they're a kid, they don't know.
Yeah.
I will go, okay, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't use that. Here's why. There's better ways of saying that. Here's actually what that means. Here's why we don't do that, right? And it's funny because a lot of people will say, and it's weird that this is my favorite moment, but thinking about it, it genuinely is. I gave David the talk when he was like 8, 9. And
About like sex and
yeah,
relationships?
absolutely.
Got it.
And it became my favorite moment with him because we went out and I went, hey, I said, let's go for a walk. He goes, okay. He goes, where can we walk? I said, let's go on nature and let's just do a nature walk. He goes, I love nature walks. Like, all right. So we're going.
I love how excitable he is.
Oh man, he's just, yes.
It's the best thing about kids.
And so I have an app on my phone to take pictures of plants so I can tell him exactly what it is, what it produces.
Yeah.
The kid has a green thumb. We've got tons of plants. We've got 3 different grape plants that are growing grapes right now. But anyways, we're out there and we're talking and we see bees and we see birds and we see birds and bees.
Birds and bees.
We see all these animals and there's nobody out there. And we're just walking. And he's asking me, what's this? Oh, it's this. And we're talking and he's just got this wonder. And when I would go, hey man, so this, let's just talk about being a man and being a woman, what that looks like and kind of having that conversation. He was just, I would see him deep thought thinking about it and go, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
What else? And I'm like, you got any questions that don't make sense? He's like, oh, I don't know. And it was it was still very childlike. Yeah. It wasn't a grown-up conversation. As much as grown-ups want to go, it's a grown-up conversation. It's not.
No, it doesn't.
Especially when you're talking to a kid. It's about the creation of life.
Yeah, correct.
And the creation of life, I mean, you've watched.
And beauty and individuality.
It's incredible. So it was one of those things we got done. We were closer than we'd ever been because we just spent 2 hours being very open, honest, transparent about everything. It was absolutely incredible. And so, a lot of people would be like, oh, it's like the most awkward situation with my parents. I'm like, you can talk to my kids. He wouldn't even know that that's the conversation we had because we had it. He now knows all of the information, but and I said, hey, and I even told him, I said, one day you're going to see something on your device or on something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. Come talk to dad and we'll have an open conversation. It wasn't an ending. It was an open beginning. It was a new relationship, but it was an odd thing because it was like, it was a torch passing moment of like, I see you as a man. I trust you.
Yeah.
But then his reply was so honoring too. It was like, wow.
That's awesome.
This is so cool. If you would have asked me before that, I probably would have been some of the times we're playing. Sure. But that was one of those like, wow, you're a big boy. Got it.
Very serious.
But it wasn't.
Yeah. More of a serious topic.
Yeah.
But in the natural, the nature of him still being 10. I mean, 10 is still a child, right? The peace and the lightheartedness you had about it.
100%.
Like, oh, yeah, okay. You're like, any other questions?
Yeah. Well, and even I was like, hey, have you seen nature documentaries? Yeah, because we love watching Google, like Planet Earth and all these things. And so it wasn't like, it's not like it hides the information from you.
No.
You know what I mean? And there's so many ways to have conversations.
Yeah.
I always laugh when parents are like, I don't know how to talk to my child. I'm all, with your mouth, preferably.
Yeah.
It's a very easy conversation.
Just start chatting.
Yeah. It's way chill. So for David, that was definitely one of my highlights. What about you, man? What's one with...
With Beck? Man, I was thinking about that on the way over here. One where I love to go back, like if I just close my mind and I go back to this moment, is Disneyland.
Love it.
Taking him on, he was finally tall enough to go on Thunder Mountain Railroad in Disneyland. And I remember walking over there with him. We had just bought him. He was 3 at the time.
Yeah.
We had just bought him a pair of Air Jordans of Air Maxes.
Yeah.
And like they prop you up a good, probably about an inch
oh, yeah,
or
absolutely,
so.
Absolutely.
And he walks up and I like set his hat on his head a little high, and they're screening pretty good. You have to get past like the gatekeeper to get in line.
Sure.
Then we walk through the line, and then another spot in the middle of the line before you walk up the stairs. If you know the line, there's another person right there. They're like, "Hey, can I just see how tall he is?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, Beckham standing up nice and tall, and he was kind of slouching. I'm like, shoulders back, like, so nice.
Come on, man.
And he did it, and he's like looking at me the whole time, and I'm just like, come on.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're good." I'm like, "All right, let's go." And then we're running up the stairs. And then right before you get on the train, there's one more person, and I'm just like, and I look at the scale, and I'm like, or the measuring tape thing, and I'm like, oh, it looks a little taller. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, this is like final boss. Like, this is
boss approaching.
This is final boss right before we get to enjoy this ride. And I'm like, stand up nice and tall, stretch that back out.
Yeah.
And the girl's super kind. She's like, all right, buddy, here, can you take your hat off? I'm just like, oh no. Gigs up.
The hat
man.
was the saving gig.
Gigs up. Gigs up. And she's like, "You're good. Give me Knuckles." And Beckham like gives her Knuckles, and like the look on his face is like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
And it was his first time, so I didn't ask for like the back of the ride, which is like whip you all around.
Oh yeah.
I have this. I'll have to find it and throw it in the comments on this episode. But this photo of Beckham and I remember the shirt I was wearing and the hat I was wearing and everything, and just the look on his face at the camera is like.
Yeah.
And midway through the ride, I look over because it's a pretty aggressive ride, right?
Sure.
Getting tossed all around, and I'm like hoping that he's enjoying it, right? Because that can make or break a kid. He can get off it and be like, roller coasters aren't for me, but I'm a big coaster guy. Like, literally last night, we're watching a POV in bed right before we go to bed. Like, we're big on POVs.
I love it.
But midway through the ride, I'm like, is this awesome? And like literally on the part of the ride where it's kind of like bumpy, he's like, "This is awesome," like that. And so that memory, and he's little, right? Yeah. And Thunder Mountain is just the kind of the lap bar.
Yeah.
So I'm having to like, I have my arm around him in case you don't get a zero gravity. He just goes, "Woo!" Lost my boy. So I have my arm around him, and I'm like, "This is awesome." He's like, "This is awesome," while he's looking up at me with the biggest smile.
That's so good, bro.
That moment, I'm going to go back to. For the rest of my life.
Okay, so so for Luke, we just went to Discovery Kingdom for roller coasters. He's never been on a roller coaster before. The last time we went was a couple years ago, and he was too short to ride anything.
Yeah,
he couldn't even ride Cobra. He was too short.
Oh, really?
And so now he had a growth spurt. He's like, "Oh, I'm tall enough." So
what is
he's
36 or 40 inches?
48 inches.
48?
48
for Cobra?
No, for Cobra is 42.
Yeah.
So, but 48 to ride some rides, and so he's 48. With his shoes on.
Do they have him take his shoes off?
No.
Okay.
So when we were leaving in the morning, I told him, "Hey, bud, make sure you wear shoes. Don't wear..."
He wore flip-flops.
And he's like, "I'm going to wear my Crocs." I said, "Don't wear Crocs. Wear your shoes because they'll fall off."
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that.
Unless you flip them into four-wheel drive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even then, going on a roller coaster.
Sure, may still fly off.
I was like, all right. So I told him, "Keep your shoes on."
Yeah.
He goes, "Okay, I can do that." So he didn't change his shoes. He was like, "I want to match Mom," and wore Crocs. Well, then we get in line for a ride. It used to be Roar. It's now the Joker ride.
Yeah.
He's tall enough. The guy's like, "Wow, he's tall enough. Come on in." So we get up there. We're waiting in line. It goes down.
Oh, got it.
And they're like, "Sorry, And and they were like, well, let's leave. I said, no, everybody's leaving. Let's give it 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we gave it 10 minutes. Someone goes, hey, man, sorry, it's going to take a little longer. Here's a free fast pass. Come back. I was like, cool. And I knew that's the case. So I was like, all right. So then I was like, okay, man, hey. He goes, oh, I really wanted to ride it. I said, I know. We'll go on another one. So we go across the way. It's the ride. They got the Batman ride there. So we go over there. And I was like, all right. So he gets through. He's tall enough. Everything's good. We're going. We're standing in line. And it goes down. Oh. And he's just like, I want to ride a roller coaster. Come on. It's been an hour and 15 minutes, and we have not ridden a roller coaster. And we've only been talking. David has even been like, Lukey, it's the best thing ever. Your life will be better riding a roller coaster. So he's like, it better be good. Yeah. So then we go up there, we get in there, and he takes his shoes off. And then the lady does the height, and he's too short.
With his shoes off.
With his shoes off. Because he took his shoes off to be like, Mom. And he's just like, but I really wanted to ride those. So he's mad. And I get on the roller coaster, and I do it with David. And I was like, all right, we get back. And Lukey is just fit to be tied. And I was like, well, we've got a fast pass. We already know you're tall enough for Joker. Let's go. I said, but you have to keep your shoes on. Yeah. I told you to wear shoes. All right. And he goes, at this point, he's like, it better be good. I've been waiting. So it was 2 hours before we wrote anything. Yeah. Well, I wrote something, but it was 2 hours before he wrote anything. Got it. It better be the best. So we're there. Yeah. And we go, and the person's walking through with the stick, walks by, measures it. All right, you're good. We go in, we sit down. He goes, we're actually on.
We're in.
And I was like, yeah. And he goes, dude, I'm so excited. I said, all right. So we sit down, it buckles it down, and I did the same thing. I wrapped my arm around and then grabbed the bar.
Yeah.
I was like
an additional.
I was like, oh, you're in.
Support.
You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So then we're going, and I forgot how fast that ride goes, and it's spinning.
Yeah.
And we get done, and he's just like, his face is plastered, like.
This is David or Luke?
This is Luke.
And Luke was how old at this time?
This was this year, so he was 7.
7.
So
got it.
He literally first real roller coaster. Awesome. He's like, and I look at him, I was like, what'd you think, man? He goes, that was the most terrifying, best thing I've ever done in my life. Awesome. I was like, yes. We want to do more. He goes, roller coasters rock. And I was like, all right.
Yes, let's go.
And so when we talk about that,
dude, it's like a rites of passage, man.
Yeah.
Like, he could have been like, no, never again. And there's like a little piece of your soul kind of dies. So you're like,
yeah.
Like, you could have had so many memories at future coasters.
Well, we could do more.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was hilarious. So he, but when he tells people, he never tells the 2 hours of waiting and not getting on roller coasters. He just goes, I rode my first coaster. It was the best.
Yeah.
And I'm like, see, that's how it works.
I love that.
I think that's how, but honestly, I think there's a huge lesson in that. That's how it is, though, right? It's like we only look at the closed things or the things that are disadvantages and things we can't do. But when we finally have that memory, it's like, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
You know, they did it's funny. It kind of goes into long suffering, which I mean is really part of being a parent because there is a lot of long suffering.
There is no better analogy of parenting other than long suffering.
Yeah. Well, we just showed them Jurassic Park because they're old enough and.
Nice.
They were
7 and 10.
7 and 10.
I was thinking how soon I could show Beckham like
he wasn't the trailer for Jurassic. So we showed him the trailer and he's like, "I'm not ready to watch that."
But he said that straight up.
Yeah, and then we Luke.
Yeah,
and that was last year. And so we showed it to him again. He goes, "I want to watch it." And then we watched the movie. The movie is way less scary than the trailer. Like the trailer is way more scary. Correct. Okay, but when it comes to long suffering, so they did a statistic where they had a person go out there. And they were trying to understand somebody's value to suffering, right? They're trying to equate that. So they told somebody, all right, would you like $1 million? They're like, yes, I would. They're like, okay, I'm going to give you a job. For the next 6 months, you will be my slave, and you will work 20 to 22 hours a day for the next 6 months. I will make sure you're taken care of, all that, but you will not make money until the end, and I will pay you $1 million. Are you willing to do that? 99% of people said yes.
Oh, they said yes?
They said yes.
Really?
And that was because the exchange of, to them, $1 million was worth the 6 months of suffering.
The suffering.
Right? It's the same thing with childbirth.
Yeah.
Some women go, no, not a thing. I don't. It's not worth the discomfort. Yeah. But then when they have a child, they go, what was discomfort about that? Yeah. Right? And that's why you have some women that have like 97 kids and you have some that have none.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really interesting kind of looking in that facet of being like what we put value to, we're willing to sacrifice for, and we're even willing to go through suffering for because it's worth it. Yeah. And I think as a parent, as a father, there's a lot we go through, but when we have those little moments, it's like, oh yeah, I went through that. I don't remember going through that.
Things are sweeter when you had to suffer to get it.
Yep.
Right? Nothing attained with value through ease is ever going to make a huge impact, right? If you organically just stumble into something for free, it's like, okay, cool. Whether it's money or success, it's not earned. Something earned, there's naturally going to be more of a value to it.
Absolutely.
You walked through hell to get to heaven.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But you're going to, like, the sweet wouldn't be as sweet without the bitter.
Absolutely.
Having experienced the blood and the sweat and the tears for it, I'm thinking about my buddy the other day. I was just asking him how work is going. He's like, dude, I'm pouring in as many overtime hours as I can because my family, we have a Disneyland trip
I love it.
In September, and then we're thinking about going to Disney World in January.
Perfect.
But right now, he's
hustling.
grinding.
Oh, yeah.
Grinding. But he's like, it's going to be incredible.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, way to stay
forward thinking.
Way to stay forward thinking.
Absolutely.
Man. Because what's that going to do? That's going to make that shift, as grueling as it is, thinking about your kids waking up and going into the park and their smiles and be like, that sweat equity, man. That was everything. Speaking of fathers, we were talking earlier before we started shooting about some stats. You and I both know how important our role is in
oh
the family
my gosh, absolutely.
as a father, and our role as a husband.
Oh yeah.
And showing all of the love to our spouses, to our wives, so that our sons and my daughter get to see firsthand what it is to A, be a man, be a husband, and C, be a father.
Absolutely.
Right? You were talking earlier, pull them up really quick. There
I got
some stats about
right here.
Fathers and the opposite side of that coin, fatherlessness.
Yep.
And we were talking about.
Well, this is really crazy because they're not. I was talking to a friend of mine. And he was talking about fatherless. He was talking about fatherless homes having zero impact, and it was a very, very odd thing we're talking about. And he was talking about finances specifically, but my brain goes, "You're looking at equity in an individual." And so when it comes to the equity of an individual, that's priceless, which means it's so much more valuable.
Correct.
It's like you may have a father figure that helps you at a job and gives you X, Y, and Z experience, but if you never had the ability to respect and honor them because you hadn't seen that in your life, you're going to squander that opportunity because you didn't have that. He'll then be the guy that went to go get milk 7 years ago and never came back.
Yeah.
And so even if he's trying to help you, you can't receive it because, and you'll shoot yourself in the foot. So these statistics really show it. So this is from a fathersplace.org. They're literally a nonprofit in Georgetown, and their whole purpose is to make people understand the importance of fathers and some statistics. So
lay it on us.
So it says right here, importance of fathers and statistics. A father's value is tremendous. That's why it's so important for us to help fathers realize the important contributions that they can make. Research shows that when fathers are involved, their children are, and here's 3 basic ones, 2 times more likely to go to college. I'll regurgitate that in, more likely to pursue higher knowledge, more likely to be willing to learn and to excel and look for a field and industry that they can pursue more for.
Got it.
So, I mean, I see that as college, but I have plenty of friends that are like some of the best electricians I've ever met. And it was because their father's like, oh no, kid, you can become industry, destroy the industry. Yeah. Oh, I can?
Yeah. Because they were told that they could.
Because they were told they could. 80% less likely to spend time in jail.
80%
less likely.
With a father around.
With a father around.
80% more likely to spend time in prison or jail without a father.
So even then, if you flip that on its head, let's just take how many people are in prison now. 80% of those people are in prison because they didn't have a role model.
I wouldn't maybe say because.
Not because, but it's an adding factor. It's definitely an adding factor.
And when it's 80%, my goodness, there's definitely impact there. 80% more likely to spend time in jail or prison in a home that was absent a father. Yep.
And then this one, 75% less likely to experience teen pregnancy, which means there's enough honor and respect.
Wow.
They respect themselves 75%. More. I mean, and here's the thing when it comes to that, like when I look at teen pregnancy, I always look at it's more of, like we were talking about suffering. It's more of postponing a pleasure so that the sweet reward can be sweet.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing when it comes to all of that. It's like, no, you want to wait so that your child can be taken care of properly. Yeah. You want to be in the proper place. And sometimes it happens, and it's no big deal. It's going to grow you, and it's going to make you go, hey, if you're a 16-year-old woman and you get pregnant and you have a kid, I don't expect that 16-year-old boy to do anything. If he grows up and becomes a man and starts doing, maybe chances are low. But
unfortunately, are very low.
The family is going to have to increase in value and time and invest itself. And if it's another mother, then it's a repeating cycle. You know what I mean?
You're making your road that much harder. Not that it's not doable.
No,
because there are many.
But I
know that did it. But
yeah. I've heard incredible stories of, hey, my mother was a single mother. She had 3 jobs. She took everything. And that is nothing but absolutely incredible. But it's like that is not the only road, though.
Correct.
I think it's easy for us to honor people that had to overcome obstacles. But if you don't have to overcome those obstacles, why would we glorify those obstacles?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
so,
well put.
It's like, hey, 75% less likely to experience teen pregnancy. It's not a bad thing that it happened.
So the other side of that is a father being in the home equates statistically to a 75% chance reduction of a daughter as a pregnant teen.
Yep.
75%.
When I look at that as
insane.
Respect, and I also look at that as respecting themselves and understanding their value, and then seeing how they're respected by their father, which helps them.
Not only that. No, please, I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, and then like you marry. I mean, I love my mother. She's very kind, caregiving, loving. She wants to go out of her way to help people. My wife is very similar.
Yeah.
I married someone that is like my mother.
Yeah.
Her father was a go-getter, self-employed, got stuff done, and did that stuff. I'm very much that. Yeah. She married somebody that was like her father. Yeah. I mean, it's easy for us to kind of look at him and be like, oh, no, you start realizing you marry someone that's like your parents.
Yeah.
It's true. It's just what you do.
It's true.
And so if your father was a dirtbag, chances are high you don't see value in yourself. You don't see value in what's going on.
Yeah.
And then that be the case. That's why these statistics are so important, because even if he was, having him in the home, it's not saying, look, these stats aren't good fathers. It's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going on the moral compass of good and bad, because that's subjective, right?
Correct.
To your faith and those things. It's not saying that. It's saying just having a father at home. And that's the difference. You're not looking at somebody that's amazing or somebody that's awful. You're literally looking at just having them at home does that.
And when you say just, the word just is appropriate.
Yes.
Like just being there equates to so much, so much better of a environment for the kids.
Well, it gets,
and not only that, I mean, man, when I think of little girls, I can't not think of my beautiful Madeline Joy.
And good on you.
But that little girl, I'm picturing Maddie and Beckham growing up without a dad, and
oh yeah,
how much harder it would be on Hannah to raise those kids without me. Like I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but it's so infuriating that we're at a spot in culture where fathers and the nuclear family are just completely tossed aside. Well, because everything now is individualistic, or you don't need a man, or go out and get it. I'm
the arguments,
we're missing a little bit of a important part here. Well,
the arguments also become selfish.
I don't need.
Yeah. Hey, look. Here's a thought. If I weren't in the picture, my wife would still be a mother.
Yeah.
To the kids.
And she'd be a great
mom. And she would be a great mom. And she would be able to overcome, and I have a feeling she has enough of a community, she would be able to do those things. Mm-hmm. Not an issue at all. Power to her for that. But that doesn't mean that I don't bring anything to the table.
Correct.
But that also doesn't mean that she doesn't bring anything to the table. And my issue with any feminist argument or any type of argument, it's just like, well, how dare you? I'm capable. Nobody said you weren't.
Correct.
The whole point of, but I need to be
honoring.
But honoring is a sacrifice. You need to honor my sacrifice. And this is why one of my favorite phrases is honor is the currency of heaven.
Yeah.
Okay. I honor my children. I want the best for them. And in turn, they honor me back by doing what? So if your expectations in your kids are high, they're going to return those expectations back to you.
Yeah.
If you have high expectations to somebody else and you're honoring them, not high expectations in judgment, but in honor, genuinely investing and wanting them to succeed, they're going to return that back.
Absolutely.
Okay? So when we're looking at it, the problem is with your feminist or whatever organization that says you don't need X, Y, and Z, because there's now men groups that are doing that. And I'm like, shut up. It's not about that.
Gentlemen, chill.
If you can't learn to honor an individual, and you can't receive that honor, you are messed up. I am messed up, and we got to figure that crap out. It's like I wasn't able to receive a compliment when out of high school. I used to insult myself a lot. 3 older brothers. So when you're the youngest, what do? Oh, yeah, that's something stupid people say. That's why I said it. And my wife, at the time when we were dating, she's like, why do you say that? I was like, well, because if I say it, then they won't get to it. She's like, but they were never going to get to it. Why are you self-demeaning yourself? I was like, well, because it's safer for me to self-demean myself than let somebody else. She says, but you're still demeaning yourself. Stop it. And it took, like, I would be in a conversation. Well, I'd never, she's like, stop. I was like, okay. And for a time, she literally held me accountable and honored me and honored the man I am now. But I wouldn't have been that way.
That's awesome.
But what did she get out of that? Nothing. What she got out of that is me. And sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes that's an awful thing. But she still honored me. And in that honoring sacrifice, I'm honoring back in the relationship. Right. I've got more skin in the game. So you have these agencies that don't understand that concept. And they're like, well, according to statistics are cold, empty, and heartless. We bring the heart to the situation. And I'm not saying that somebody couldn't. A nuclear bomb could go off and we could survive. That doesn't mean we want to talk about the statistics of surviving a nuclear fallout. Why don't we stop the nuke from dropping?
No, great point, man. I think if we peel it back a little bit further and we look at our role as fathers, and we go into the what do our kids need from us? It's super simple. Like my life is way more simple having kids than not. You know why? Because my focus is not on me anymore.
Yes, exactly.
It's more daunting to just work and provide for yourself, or even just work and provide for yourself and a spouse. There's so much more peace in my life having kids and feeling like Hannah and I run a zoo, because we do. Those three. Because the focus has transitioned from me. I have more peace, truly. I have more peace knowing that my life is no longer about myself.
I love it.
And there's no better way to put that. But when I wake up in the morning and I look at my kids, you know what I'm saying.
I get it.
It's easy to work harder for others.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Knowing our role. And knowing that we are doing our absolute best to provide the absolute best for someone else. There's so much more magic there. Than just going out and getting it and being self-seeking and getting it for ourselves. With work, I cranked into a whole new freaking gear that I didn't know I had until I had kids. So like my kids made me a better person.
I had to.
They made me a better loan officer. They made me better at life. Because my focus is no longer myself.
Absolutely.
And how godly is that? If our job in this freaking universe is to love people and put others in front of ourselves.
Absolutely.
That is exactly our role as a father. And to work hard and to sacrifice and to see them light up. It's like Christmas is, we're big on Christmas, but Christmas, the best part of Christmas now is not receiving anything.
Oh no, exactly.
Let me go freaking get it myself.
Right?
Like cool, another awesome pair of Stance socks. Love it.
Exactly.
Let's go. My cologne.
Love it.
Love it. But watching Beckham tear into a massive Paw Patrol tower, it's like the best thing ever. And like I want to be on the floor and I'm like staring up at his face just to get like the best angle ever.
I'm helping you.
Oh no, please. To get like the best angle ever to take in that moment, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That's where it's at for
Well, and I would say your life truly doesn't begin until you're willing to lay it down. And I think as soon as you're willing to lay it down, that's when you have kids. That's when you start realizing that. And I think that there is a solace in like what you were saying. You know that no matter what happens around you, you still have the love of your children.
Yeah.
That foundation is so much stronger. And you have to go out of your way. It's so weird. There's times that I've made mistakes where I'm like, man, why did I say it that way? Why was I so harsh? You know, I like to verbalize. I like to think things through. And sometimes when I get angry, I'm like, gosh, so, and you're going to get angry if you don't have kids. If you have kids, you're going to definitely get angry. Yeah. And you're going to have a moment where you're going to say something, you're going to do something, you're like, and then you're going to feel really bad.
Yeah.
And you're going to go back and you're like, okay, look, Dad, sorry. Okay, I just need you to know that.
Yeah, I did that the other day.
I've done that countless amount of times.
Yeah.
Because it's realizing, okay, their love is so precious. I'm willing to lay down my opinion of being right. I'm okay to lay down these things to make sure that they're taken care of.
Absolutely.
And that's the true heart of a loving father. So I'm going to read some more stats.
Yeah. Let's roll.
When a dad isn't there, so what we read was when a father's there, it's more likely, 2 times more likely to go to college. A child's 2 times more likely to go to college or seek higher education. Yep. 80% more likely or less likely, 80% less likely to spend time in jail, 75% less likely to experience teen pregnancy. When a dad isn't there, it's a different picture. Children in father-absent homes account for 71% of all high school dropouts.
71% of all high school dropouts are of
father-absent homes. Yes.
71%.
Yes. 90% of homeless and runaway children.
90?
90. And
9 of every 10.
Yes. And then 63% of youth suicides. So allow me to just to break that down in a much simpler way. We want to decrease youth suicides. We want to help kids stay in school. We want to decrease homelessness in America. We also want to stop people from going to jail and having teen pregnancies. Cool. Commit to a relationship and stick with it and be a father. We literally fixed it. Like, according to this, we're not even starting, like, you know how we always talk about starting a flat ground instead of a net negative?
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to start a business, you don't, even if you have some debt, you make sure you have a good ceiling to it so you're able to succeed.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, you're emotionally negative. Yeah. It doesn't matter at that point because you're going to keep pulling from that person.
Correct.
We're literally looking at all of society going, why do we have all these net negatives? Oh, it's right here.
Here you go.
Oh, so the one answer is actually fathers being in the home? So you mean a actual father. And so that wasn't an engaged father. So here's the...
be a utopian society.
Yeah. From people just pursuing the family unit, pursuing that. And here's...
But how great the evil today.
Yeah.
That the goal is to break apart the nuclear family.
Well, it's also the value system as well. Think about, even if you look at it culturally, the biggest benefit you had was your kids. So think about like kings. I had a son. They would have as many wives as necessary until they had a son that could be the heir. And even if they had 19 sons, they would fight for competition to become the son that would be the heir for X, Y, and Z. Yeah. So there was always there was a pursuit. There was a reason we were doing it. But there was always I need to get X approval. Yeah. As soon as you stop seeking any type of approval and you become your own approval, that becomes scary. Yeah. I love my wife. I still seek her approval. I still seek my wife's approval.
Good. You should.
Right? I love you. I still seek your approval. Why? Because there's that community element. Yeah. You're submitting yourself to the community, and the community is submitting itself back to you. And so societies that have lasted the longest have embraced community concepts. What happens if you have let's just take 2 brand new countries that started, they each have 100,000 people. Yep. This group that has 100,000 people have families and their birth rate's high and they're continuing to have kids. And this one goes, we don't need kids. And their birth rate's at 20% compared to this other one being at 80%. One is going to take over the other one. Very, very simple because of numbers.
Yeah, correct.
Right? And so a healthy society has a healthy family, has a healthy operations. And the fact that it's been thrown into, being a loving family, Judeo-Christian mindset. It's like, no, let's look at this socially and politically. Let's look at this on every element.
Yeah.
This isn't just about faith.
Don't make it, so faith-based.
Don't. This is a fact of life. If people aren't making kids, then your society starts to die.
Yeah.
And if you don't have
literally,
and if you don't have fathers at home, apparently the pursuit for excellence starts to die.
Yeah.
So you want
by 80%.
And you want to have a future. So you're saying you want to have a society that is actually pursuing the newest technology and the newest things. You want to have the best innovators. Cool. Then you need to have fathers.
Yeah.
Literally, that's all it's saying.
80%.
I'm literally reading this, going, oh yeah. So having a father at home. I can even tell you as a business owner, and I mentioned this earlier, but when we were on camera, we've gone through a lot of employees being a coffee shop. We're used to it. We're a stopping point for somebody to continue through education. Sure. Totally okay with it. Yep. The best employees we've ever had have a mother and a father. Hands down. It is not an issue. They don't deal with, there is no drama. I've not had to deal with, he didn't clean this up. Do you think he hates me? It's like, no, actually that's not he was busy. Here are the numbers. So I'll tell him to clean up a little bit more. We'll fix it. Oh, okay. Right? It's less hands-on. It's just an odd thing. They're more capable and competent. And that's not all, but according, from my little experience in that, it's been huge.
And it doesn't need to be on some stat line.
No.
It's what you've personally experienced as a business owner.
Yeah. And then even here it says, becoming an engaged dad has benefits for fathers too. Engaged dads get goals and achieve greater success, like you were talking with your business. Healthy habits become more important. So I need to eat healthier. I can tell you, after my little health scare, man, this became huge. It's like, I need to be more active in my kid's life. I need to be more healthy. I need to.
And you need to be there.
Yes.
And be active.
Yes.
In your kid's life. Because if you live an unhealthy lifestyle, you're eventually going to rob your kids of more time with you.
Precisely.
You're not going to be able to get down on the floor and wrestle if you can't get up off the ground.
And then the last one is self-esteem increases as dads see their value. So
self-esteem of
the father.
The father.
Because now
they see more of their value. Yeah, gosh, bro, nailed that. I love that. I feel like a overwhelming sense of pride.
Yeah.
Like walking into church with Beck and Maddie and Bodie.
Yeah.
Like
it's amazing.
I'm smiling like an idiot because I just walk in like, look at our fruit. look at our little fruit stand that we made.
Heck yeah, man.
Look at my kids.
Yeah.
Like that's what gives me more value today than anything. Watching Beckham graduated preschool a couple weeks back, and of all the kids up there, they were giving like little awards for this and that and best reader and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And Beckham won an award for kindness.
Bro.
And I was like, and
that's the best.
And I was like, man, there is nothing greater that you can hear from an adult, let alone a teacher, that your son is just so kind.
Yep.
And I'm like, say no more. Like you just made my week. You just made my year.
Good. I don't need to do anything now. Yeah. You did it. I'm good.
Get back to like, let's go.
Oh, I love that, man.
Go,
I
man.
love that.
Bro. Ah.
No, it's very much the same. It's like when your kids get acknowledged for something that you're working on.
The biggest compliment.
You're like, and there's other times that you'll get a compliment and they're like, your kids are so patient. And you're like, my kids? You're not talking about my kids. There's no way you're talking about my kids.
That's true.
So patient. And you're like, I don't even understand that.
Yeah.
I realized, so we attempted to homeschool David and Lukey for 1 year. And I say attempted to.
Like core?
No, we actually were like, hey, we did Holes Bar, like, hey, I'm going to teach. I got enough, bro.
Yeah.
It's easy. We can go through this. And I have a good way of communicating with them.
Yeah.
And they learned a lot. When they went into school, they were way advanced in things because I just showed them in certain ways.
That's usually how it goes.
So there was a huge amount of benefits. But I noticed really fast, they needed peer pressure.
It's good.
And because I would talk with David and be like, okay, he goes, I'll do it, Dad. It's fine. I just have a hard time doing it when you're here. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm like the boss, the manager. Sometimes you have a hard time doing a job when your manager's there. That totally makes sense. And I was like, all right. And so we were trying to do homeschool. Like we would get through and he was getting like C's and D's on stuff. And I was like, bro, I learned it, but it's just really hard. And a test would take 2 hours. And I was like, all right, dude, I love you. We're figuring this out. I mean, and ultimately I was learning about my kids in a whole new level in that regard. Yeah. But when they went to school, all of a sudden they're all getting straight A's. I was like,
what?
What is happening?
Where was that?
And it was because, so-and-so started doing that, and I realized, I got to go. I got to do it faster.
Bro.
Oh, I wasn't good enough in this, but then I saw so-and-so, and I was like, I can do that. And this monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, it helps you rise to the occasion. When you see somebody else being able to do it, like in high school, I was never able to catch you as
coattails.
I was never able to catch you as valedictorian, so I settled for salutatorian.
Salute.
But no, I mean, when you see somebody else, get an accolade, like here, I'll dote on my buddy Jeremy Kurtz, who's a. Would you if you mess with my mic?
You keep moving your mouth over here, and so then I'm out here going. It's gonna be a really good story about it. It's gonna be really, and I'm like, I'm like,
here I am.
This isn't Star Wars Acolyte, bro. Settle. Sorry.
I love you. I haven't seen it yet.
Don't. Anyways, continue.
Jeremy.
I love Jeremy.
Whom I love. He's just as good a dude as you will meet.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And people have asked me before, like, how is it being in that office? Like, does he shine? It almost sounds campy. Like, does he shine as bright? Yeah. When no one's around? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Like, I from a work standpoint, I'm only 6 years into lending now. I got my license in spring of 18. He got into lending, I think, in 14.
Yeah.
13 or 14. So he's got a good 4, almost 5 years on me.
Yeah.
And dude, just from a wealth of knowledge standpoint, there are people that you gravitate to.
Oh yeah.
And the dude's got some major gravitas and gravity to him.
I love it.
People are naturally drawn to him. He's an extremely hard worker. And when I'm around him, I find myself being a better worker. Like, there's no better way to put that.
100%.
People are like, well, are you ever going to branch out? And I'm like, I don't need to.
No.
Because I have a great buddy, mentor.
Yeah.
And seeing somebody that does it, like if I have a slow couple days, I kid you not, and I've told him this, I will, because my office is just across the foyer from his, I will turn off any music that I have going on. And I will, if I'm not on a phone call, I will literally, and turn off the little fan on my desk.
Sure.
I'll just listen in to him on a phone call.
Nice.
Or him with a client, just to take little like, oh, that's a good way to break that down. Oh, I've never explained a credit build scenario like that to a person before. We are better when we're around other people that are doing it.
100%.
Right? So to go back to the story of your kids doing better in that setting.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
100%.
And I think, and I'm a huge proponent to homeschooling. But at the same time, if we have the opportunity as adults to get out and be around other people that are doing it, we'll be better. Same for our children.
Oh, absolutely.
Same for every generation.
Yep.
If you're around people, if you are a swordsmith, you will be a better swordsmith if you're watching somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Not that you're trying to steal their glory, right?
No.
You're trying to learn and hone in your craft. What was the phrase? Mark Cuban, whom I don't quote often, Mark Cuban, he said, what is it? He said, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh. Like, okay. Before the book 48 Laws of Power, the very first rule is never outshine the master. Enjoy being a prince without trying to be the king.
Oh yeah, take advantage.
There's a lot of wisdom that you can seek out and counsel that you can seek out.
Absolutely.
You just build your wealth of knowledge without having to be the guy, the top dog.
Well, absolutely. Well, and I think it balances you in life as well, because if you're at home, you're the guy at home, and you're the guy at wherever you go. It weighs, because you're like, I'm the guy
all the time.
I want to not be the guy for 5 minutes, and I think that's why, and I lean into this a lot. I think that's why. I think humans, we've really messed up on our education, how we do things. I think every 10 years a person changes, and I think that our society, students started getting to that point, but every 10 years who you are changes, and you should be pursuing something, not necessarily different, but learning something new and evolving with it every 10 years. So by the time, and I think that's part of wisdom, that you can become a Renaissance man, so that by the time you're at a point where you are working legislatively or whatever you're doing, you understand enough of how people actually feel, understand enough how people actually operate, so you can make the proper rules in the proper situations. Often it's just a separation of classes, and nobody understands it. And I think it's the same thing for homes. I think it's the more we can grow and understand, because you go through different seasons with your kids. Like, I miss them being babies, but then I'm like, man, I'm so happy they're not babies.
Yeah.
Right? And then like everyone's like, oh, well, when they're teenagers, it's gonna be pretty rough. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I'm
excited for everything.
Pretty excited. I think that you determine that. Like, if you're like, oh, the teenagers are the worst. It's like, you're not the best to be around all the time anyway. Like, give your kid a break.
Can we speak about you, sir?
No, I love it. It's just like, oh, no, my kids. It's like, no, stop complaining about your kids.
Yeah.
Even when I was working at the hospital, a very consistent thing in a lot of job places, not just there, but men would complain about their wives and then wonder why their marriage was all messed up. They complain about their kids and wonder why their kids didn't respect them. It's like, what you put out is what you return. Like, it's pretty simple. So if you're a father and you're listening to this, know that we are very grateful, and hopefully you feel encouraged knowing your role. Like, there's so much power in you, in who you are.
Yeah.
And as a society, we literally would heal. Society would heal.
Take your role seriously. If you are, we've both lost our fathers.
Yep.
Right? There's no going back and making more memories with them. All we have now is our own opportunities with our children.
Yep.
Your dad was how old when he passed?
60, I want to say 66, 67.
Yeah. Dude, my dad was 61. Way too young. So if all I can do in honoring my father's legacy is spend as absolute much time with my kids as I can, I'm going to.
Absolutely.
Man, I roll up to my house with my big puppy dog lab energy when I roll up at like 3:30 on a day that they expected me home at 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
Oh, that's the best, bro.
And I'll open the garage door and do a little honk honk, and then like little like chipmunks coming to an opening in a hollow. It's like Beckham, Maddie, Ken and Bodie, and they're always like, and then they run out to my truck, and and oftentimes they're usually at the door, so I can't even get out.
Yeah.
And then Maddie's always like, take us around the block, and it's like the best thing ever. And I'm like, all right, let's go around the block. And I hope this doesn't get reported, but we'll go around the block, and I'll hold both Maddie and Beckham right here on the kind of the main console, and they'll stick their heads up through the sunroof.
Sure.
And I'll just drive like super slow, like not even like foot on the gas.
Yeah,
but like
that's amazing.
Neutral, crawling through like the most immediate like neighborhoods, and they'll wave at people. I was like, "Hi," and then like they're like, "Another lap." I'm like, "Okay," and we roll right back by them. Hi. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" But that's the best, man. There is no work accolade that even remotely.
No.
I could have the best month commission wise closing escrows of my life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hold a freaking candle to the accolade and joy that I get from my kids.
Absolutely.
Period. So why do we put so much of a focus on how good we are at work and not on how good we could be as husbands and fathers?
Oh, I would
like change the narrative, man.
Change the paradigm on it. Well, I think it's because it's the work of your hand immediately, and I think it's the same thing. Like we'll get biblical for a second. It's the reason that Esau traded over his legacy for a bowl of soup. Yeah. I was hungry at the time, and I don't think we realize we do that as parents or as fathers. We don't realize that it's like I would rather only take the accolade of the instantaneous and go, yeah, you're right, I did do that, instead of going, this is the long-term goal, is my kids, and making sure that you understand the value that I have. I think, if anything, I've realized value of time. As a father, you realize it more. And it's like, ooh, can you help me with this? And it's like, okay, I'm in the office from X, Y, and Z. We can do it around then. Yeah. If I get a phone call, other than you, because you're cool. But normally if I get a phone call after 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I'm like, nope. Not that I ain't answering that crap. I'm at home. Yeah. I'll reply to people the next day. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey, sorry about that. I had some missed call from you at 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. And it's because it's boundaries, but your kids see that too. And they go, oh man, this is great. I think that you just understanding time and understanding the power that we have in honoring. What we honor manifests itself. If we honor our kids they will manifest into the best versions of themselves they can be, which is all we can really want.
Yeah.
And in that process, we become forged through the long suffering of them, because we have to answer the questions we may not know. Or you end up seeing something in them that's something directly in you, and you're like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, am I that way with X, Y, and Z? And when my kids are showing it, obviously I must be. You know, one thing that I've noticed for my kids is, as you can tell, I like thinking, logic, all that stuff, words, vomit out of my mouth a lot. But what happens is my kids will use stats, because I use stats.
Against you?
And they'll use stats against each other. But they're cold, they're mean, they're harsh, and I'm like, is that how I sound? Okay, I gotta do better.
Yeah.
And
it's hard
I'm
to bring
like,
life to stats like that.
and I'm like, hey, why did you do that? Oh, well, you showed me. And I was like, okay, no, let's rephrase that. The person is more important than you being right. The person is more important than the statistic that you may think, because that's gonna change. Let's just, you loving them is more important.
Correct.
Other than that,
and
and if I haven't shown you that, I'm sorry, because that's something Dad's working on. Obviously, because you're showing
it's more important. Something my mom always says, it's more important to be kind than to be right.
Yep.
Right? You're going to leave that much more of a lasting impact on that individual if you were not trying to argue your point, but if you took a second to be agreeable and to seek the higher road and be kindness. Take us home, man. Land the plane. We could talk.
I know we could,
almost feel like
especially for Father's Day.
We need to do a 2.0 of this.
Absolutely.
We'll come. I'm serious, man. I love talking about dads. I love talking about fatherhood.
Yeah.
We both had great.
Oh yeah.
Not perfect.
No.
Examples of fathers, but men who were extremely hard workers and revered, and I know personally that I am a better man today from the example of hard work and fatherhood that was shown to me by my dad, who I lost in 2017, and B, who is continuing to show me what it means to be a good father in my stepdad, and Ron, who's been I think they got married in 1991, so coming up on 33 years.
That's incredible.
In my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm duly blessed that I was raised as well as I was by my dad's impact on my life as well as my stepdad's impact on my life. We could do a whole other segment on that, but I know that we're pressed for time.
To all fathers, thank you so much for what you do. Hopefully you feel
Day.
encouraged and understanding the value you bring, what you really are doing, what you're preventing.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes having a secure force being there is preventing evil from leering its head, and you need to know that that's what you bring.
Absolutely.
And not just that, the empathy and compassion, and our society is better with you than it is without you, obviously. And just know that we're appreciative. So happy Father's Day.
And hang in there, man. Life's hard.
Yeah.
Life's hard. Life is wild. We're here for you. We love you.
Yep.
Happy Father's Day. And I love you, bro.
I love you too, my man. Thank you for checking out the Cam and Joe Show.
If you guys are liking our content so far, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also listen to us on Spotify.